Hi there, Matt Allington here. It's Sunday, the 6th of November, and this is update number 5 for my River Murray floods with a focus on Big Bend in 2022. Just a reminder, there's 3 links on the screen. The videos, if you want to share the playlist for these videos, that's the first link. If you'd like to share the interactive report, I'm going to show you that's the second link. And if you'd like to learn how to build these Power BI reports, that's the third link. So let's go and have a look at the report. Okay, so here we are in the report. Just a reminder, yours will look slightly different, but it's basically the same report. Here's the navigation down the side. So the more I use this report, the more I like to look at this system view. So I recommend you go here first. What I've tried to do on this page is consolidate all the relevant information about what's happening upstream so that we can see it in one place and see what's happening or what potentially will happen downstream. And so you can see here that Wacol Junction continues to go up. We're up to 147.5 gigalitres per day, and that's rising at a fairly steep rate. So the rate of change each day is 5 or 6 gigalitres additional flow each day. Also, we've got the Murrumbidgee does have some water in here compared with other years. And when you combine those two together, I've put these little interim boxes in here so you can see what the upstream aggregate of those two water sources is so that we can see potentially the impact. But keep in mind, it's the timing that matters. So it might take longer for this Murrumbidgee water to come down. So at some point in time, though, we might expect to get a number somewhere around 177, although if we go back and have a look at the flow data here, and if I look at, say, 93, because that was a fairly high flow, and for 93, what I'll do is I'll just drop out these other things and I'll just look at, say, Wacol and the Murrumbidgee and Lock 15. You can see here that if we take this peak, well, first of all, there is a delay, which is not surprising. But if we take this peak here from Wacol Junction 141, and it's actually about the same peak from Murrumbidgee is 17, so 150, close enough to 160, and we only ended up getting, or we ended up getting 167, so there's a little bit more water there. So I think based on that, it's reasonable to expect that we may end up getting a peak of somewhere around this. It depends, of course, Wacol Junction is still going up, so maybe it's a little bit higher, and that's certainly on par with what it was in 1993, but below what it was in 74. And then likewise, I've taken the Darling water. Once again, this is much higher than it has been in previous years. So the 93 flood, this one was really quite low. 74, it was really quite high. So taking those two things into account, we should expect from the three sources, Wacol Junction, the Murrumbidgee and the Darling, to at least peak around 194, assuming all of that water flows downstream. I do have a little switch here, so this is combining the three original sources, and then if you just click on the switch, you can actually combine the Lock 15 with the Darling water, and that'll become more important as the water starts to flow down and it gets closer and closer to Lock 10 in this case. So 93 was 172, and at this stage we're looking at, say, 194 coming from those combined upstream areas. There was one thing that I noticed that I thought was interesting. I was noticing on this system map, if you come in here and have a look at what's happening with Lake Victoria. So I was just doing some exploration and I realized that Lake Victoria is not full. So currently it's at 85%. In fact, when I first noticed this the other day, it was about 83%. And the other thing that's changed over the last couple of days is that note now that we've got inflows of 5.7 gigalitres and outflows of 700 megalitres or 0.7 gigalitres. And so when I first saw this a couple of days ago, the inflows and the outflows were about the same. And that said to me that the water authorities are not filling Lake Victoria as yet, although they have now started to fill it by putting a net 5 gigalitres per day into that lake. And if you go and have a look at the absolute storage capacity that's left, so we've got basically 100 gigalitres of storage space, and they're putting 5 gigalitres per day in, so that should fill up in about 20 days or thereabouts. Now, I would have hoped that they might hold off on that and wait for the peak of the water coming down from Wakewell Junction before they start to fill it to take a bit of the peak off of the river, but for whatever reason they seem to have started to do that now. I just thought that was quite interesting. Okay, now the last thing I thought I'd share today, so Lisa sent me this photo this morning. You may be aware of this tree, the Tree of Knowledge. It's in Loxton. I've seen some other photos where that was not underwater, but you can clearly see here that as of Friday, so a couple of days ago, it was pretty much online with the 2011 flood level. Fair way to go to get up to 1993, and certainly a fair way to go to get up to 74. But of course, you have to take into account the fact that every location is different. They have different backwater areas, so wider or narrow, which will mean that the peak waters will go higher or lower depending on the topography of the location. Okay, so that's it for today. That live report is online if you'd like to have a look, and I'll give another update in a few days.